At 3:41 a.m., the ground screamed. A roar like thunder tearing through stone jolted me out of bed, and when I stumbled onto the porch with a flashlight, I saw the mountain was collapsing. A black wall of mud and shattered rock rolled down like liquid fire, swallowing fences, trees, and finally Sophia Williams's glass mansion, the crown jewel of her so-called luxury resort. In less than a minute, her empire was gone, buried under 30 feet of earth. But disasters don't just happen. They build quietly, like pressure under rock, until arrogance lights the fuse. I should know I watched it form inch by inch, meeting by meeting, under the rule of the most dangerous kind of tyrant, a homeowners association president with too much money and zero humility. My name's Michael Brown. I'm 64, a retired geotechnical engineer widower and accidental homeowner in what used to be a quiet mountain community called Silver Crown. I moved here after losing my wife, hoping for peace, the kind of peace that comes from fog rolling off the slopes and the low hum of wind through the junipers. For 5 years that peace held until Sophia Williams arrived. She didn't move in quietly. She arrived like a campaign launch. Blonde hair, perfect teeth, a smile that could cut granite. Within a month, she'd declared herself president of the newly formed HOA. Nobody elected her. She just decided. Her first decree was a 40-page covenant update, lawn height paint color fence material, and my personal favorite, a mountain view preservation clause, which basically meant she could tell us what trees we were allowed to plant. I ignored her at first. Let the Karen have her clipboard, I thought. But then she unveiled her masterpiece, a luxury resort carved into the side of Silver Crown Mountain. A resort, built into decomposed granite and shale. I'd seen slopes like that collapse with half the pressure. When she pitched it at a community meeting standing in front of glossy renderings and a projector, she looked like a queen unveiling her empire. I raised my hand slow and polite. "Do you know what kind of soil you're sitting on?" Her smile didn't flinch. "Our architect assures us it's perfectly safe." "Architects aren't geologists," I said. "You blast into that slope, you're not building a resort, you're inviting a landslide." She tilted her head like I was a confused child. "Mr. Brown, you're retired, aren't you?" That one hit harder than it should have. Retirement in her world meant irrelevance. I left that meeting shaking, humiliated but angry enough to dig through my old files. Maps, surveys, slope records, every warning sign I could find. I highlighted fault lines, drainage channels, scars from old slides. But when I sent the documents to the HOA, they ignored them. A week later, I heard the first blast. Boom! My coffee jumped off the table. The windows rattled. When I looked out, dust was rising off the slope like smoke from a wounded animal. My mountain, my refuge, was bleeding. And there she was, on camera, champagne in hand, smiling as if she'd conquered Everest. That was the moment I stopped being silent. At the next meeting, I tried again. Photos, maps, rainfall data. "This is after just 1 inch of rain," I told them, showing a photo of 6 inches of mud piled against my fence. "Imagine what happens when you pour concrete and cut drainage lines." Sophia waved a manicured hand. "Fear-mongering doesn't build communities." "Permits don't stop gravity," I snapped. She smiled sweetly. "Then maybe Silver Crown isn't the right place for you." That night I found a fine notice taped to my door: unauthorized distribution of materials without board consent. $250. I laughed. Then I cried. Weeks passed. Bulldozers tore deeper into the ridge. Dust coated my windows. Birds vanished. My neighbor Tom whispered to me one evening, "Cracks are forming in my basement, but no one wants to stand up to her." Then document everything I told him. Photos, dates, measurements. Evidence is what matters. I was tired, so tired. One night I sat on the porch listening to the mountain groan in the distance and asked myself, what if I'm wrong? What if I've just turned into that old man yelling at clouds? But when I touched the soil near my fence, it was damp, spongy, and moving. No, I wasn't wrong. I was just the only one listening. So I started gathering proof. Trail cameras, stakes in the ground to measure movement. My living room became a war room. Maps, logs, rainfall records pinned to every wall. Then one day a letter came back from an old colleague, Sam Clean, still working as a geotechnical consultant. His words were simple. Post-blast slope stability is inadequate. Continued construction without remediation presents high risk of landslide. I submitted it to the county. Weeks passed. No reply. Bureaucracy moved slower than erosion. Then the rain came. At first, just drizzle. Then a steady pour that turned the air to mist. By morning, a thick ribbon of red mud had crept down the slope toward my fence. I measured 6 inches of displacement, documented it, sent it again to the board. At the next HOA meeting, I stood up to speak. Sophia raised her hand like a traffic cop. "Mr. Brown, this board has voted to limit unsolicited expert opinions. You didn't even read them, because they're not relevant." Her voice was sharp as glass. "This community supports progress. If you can't handle that move." Nobody defended me. They just stared at the floor. I walked home in the rain, the kind that soaks through bone, and for the first time I thought about packing up and leaving. But then came the second blast. Louder, longer. The ground shook like thunder under my feet. I ran outside, and there it was. The mountain mutilated its face, stripped bare, the trees gone. A hawk circled once and disappeared. And Sophia. She called it a milestone for development. That night, I couldn't sleep. The storm rolled in from the Pacific, an atmospheric river, the kind that wakes old landslides. By midnight, the rain was pounding. Water poured down the scars, filling every cut and crevice. I grabbed my flashlight, stepped into the mud, and felt it shift under me like a living thing. The slope was saturated. One more storm, I thought, and gravity would take over. The next morning, I drove to the county office. The clerk stamped my documents without looking up. "We'll review this and get back to you." "Ma'am, this isn't a pothole complaint. That slope is moving." "I'll flag it urgent," she said. Urgent. I'd heard that word before. It usually means too late. By the time I got home, Sophia was holding another HOA meeting. Pink blazer, diamond earrings, same fake confidence. I stood up in front of everyone. "You've destabilized the mountain. One retaining wall is already cracked. These are measurements, photos, signed reports from licensed engineers." Sophia raised her hand. "Mr. Brown, this board." "No," I cut her off. "You didn't review anything. You hit it." Gasps. Rosa, my neighbor, stood. "My kitchen tiles cracked last week. Are you saying that's connected?" Sophia waved her off. Coincidence. Tom shouted from the back, "Is it true you ignored the reports?" "This is fear-mongering," she snapped. "Permits don't make a mountain stable," I said. "You can't legislate geology." The room exploded in arguments. Sophia slammed her gavel and stormed out. The next morning, a rock shattered my truck window. No note, just the message, "Shut up." And then, the rain came back. 3 days of non-stop downpour. By dawn of the third day, the gutter screamed. The slope behind Sophia's mansion was bleeding mud. I grabbed my camera, pulled on my jacket, and marched up the road. Bulldozers were still running engines, growling like beasts. Sophia's white SUV was parked beside them. She was wearing a white raincoat because of course she was. "You lost 20 feet of slope last night," I yelled through the storm. "Shut this down before someone dies." She turned, rain glinting off her face. "Michael, if you're here to throw another tantrum, this isn't a tantrum. That's soil failure. Remove him," she told her cousin Vince. He started toward me, smirking. I pointed up the slope. "Every pound of concrete you pour today is evidence against you. When this collapses, and it will, your name will be on the death certificate." Sophia sneered. "You're just a lonely old man. You don't run this community." She was right about the loneliness, but not about who ran the land. The mountain did. That night it stopped whispering. It roared. At 3:41 a.m., the slope gave way. The sound was primal stones splitting trees, snapping the earth, screaming. My walls shook. I ran onto the porch, flashlight trembling in my hand, and watched as the entire face of Silver Crown Mountain tore loose. Mud boulders, trees, all of it rushing downward like liquid fire. The service road vanished. Then Sophia's mansion, her monument to greed, buckled. Glass shattered, steel twisted, and in seconds it was gone. By dawn, rescue trucks and helicopters filled the valley. Neighbors stood in shock, wrapped in blankets, staring at what was left. Sophia was pulled from the mud, her perfect image shattered, her eyes hollow. She looked at me across the chaos as if I'd summoned the mountain myself. But it wasn't me. It was gravity. Reporters asked for statements. I handed over my waterproof binder photos, rainfall data maps. This wasn't an act of God, I told them. It was an act of arrogance. Weeks later, Sophia tried to sue me, said my warnings caused panic, slowed construction, contributed to the instability. Her lawyer claimed my fear campaign made the soil move. The judge didn't buy it. The case was dismissed with prejudice, and her HOA was ordered to pay damages. Sophia was removed from her post. Her resort was declared unbuildable, the mountain scarred but alive. And me, I didn't celebrate. I just stood on my porch watching the mist roll over what used to be her mansion and thought about the sound of that night, the scream of the earth, the weight of being right too late. Because the truth is simple, arrogance collapses. Always.